Ladies and gentlemen,
everybody wants the prize, but nobody wants to pay the price.
Can they be pushed? Do they have a sense of urgency? Do they want to be great?
And then, of course, you look at them and be like, yeah, right.
Everybody wants to be on your team when you're on top.
I saw the angel and the marble, and I carved until I set him free.
Go be somebody, bro.
But the most important part of the Be Somebody journey is the resilience.
Welcome to the Be Somebody Podcast, your real and raw destination for all things entrepreneurship, leadership, and culture. One of the top-rated business podcasts in the world. Now give it up for your host, Be Somebody Inc. and BSB Group International founder and CEO, Kash Shaikh.
Welcome to the Be Somebody Podcast. I am back with my boy, Herbie Pallotta.
What's going on?
Herbie, you look good, man. Did you just get cleaned up? Did you get edged up before the show tonight?
I did it myself with a little help from my wife. So can't quite see the back. I know there's not much going on, but I can't see the back.
It's funny, man. We went from, anybody that listened to season 1 of the podcast knows that we went from Vikas Sandhi, who had like that circus performer hairstyle and haircut. I mean, that thing belonged in a museum. And then we go to you, Herbie. I mean, come on.
I can't even I can't compete with that.
Your personality, though, your personality shines through. You know, people have been telling me, Herbie, I just want you to know this. I've been walking down the streets here in Cincinnati. I've been on social media. I've been deep in my own DMs, if you know what I mean, Herbie. And people have been messaging me that like, hey, that new co-host of yours, that dude, Herbie Pallotta, I really like him. He's funny, he's charming, he's got his little intro, and I was like, nah, man, he's all right. You know, he pretty good. But then I was going for a run the other day, and I listened to your intro, and I'm like, actually, Herbie, like I really think that you might be the best ever.
I'm practicing. It's all in the practice. That's what it is.
You practice at home?
I do, absolutely. Driving into work, on the way home. Like, you can't just like look at the intro and just do it off the top of your head like that. I need to like just dig deep and practice a few times.
What do you visualize? For me, like I always try to visualize something. So what picture goes to your head as you're doing your intro?
Honestly, I just try not to pass out. Like I feel like I close my eyes. Like if you go on and see our video episodes, you will see that I close my eyes at least like half of the intro, and I'm just feeling like every blood vessel in my brain just trying to not explode. So whatever that visualization is, that's what I'm seeing.
I totally empathize and recognize that feeling of trying not to explode, Herbie. Yeah. So I appreciate that, man. So anyway, that's another reason for you guys to check us out on besomebody.com, watch the full videos, watch the trailers. Please make sure you're following us on Be Somebody Blog on Instagram, Be Somebody Inc. on Facebook, and Be Somebody Blog on Twitter. Really appreciate everyone's support. It's been awesome. It's been an awesome journey. And Herbie, man, I love doing this with you every week.
Hey, I love being here. It's super exciting. And speaking of exciting, we got some great news recently.
Yeah, man, I'm super pumped up. I'm really, really grateful and really just proud of our team, because right on the heels of our Inc. 5000 recognition, we just got named to the Business Courier's fastest 55 growing companies in the Cincinnati area. Measuring our results and our growth from 2017 to 2019. It's interesting, Herbie, the Inc. 5000 measured our growth from 2016 to 2019. And as you know, I made $1.44 in 2016. So, I mean, anywhere was up from there. But the Business Courier did 2017 to 2019. And just really grateful to be a part of that list with these amazing companies. And it just speaks a lot to the power of this team that we're a part of, the culture that we're building, the great partners that we have to be growing so fast, man. So it's been an exciting ride, man, but we want to keep going. Yeah,
Kash, it's such an exciting time here, and I think a lot of it, the credit's to you. It's the culture that you're building here and the amazing team that we have.
Thanks, Herbie, man. It's exciting. But speaking of growth, I am pumped up about the guest that we have on tonight. Yeah. The biggest milestone, the biggest memory of exponential, explosive growth that I have is my time at GoPro. When I first walked into the door there, it was a 2-story white cottage on the edge of the Pacific Ocean in Half Moon Bay, California. And the reason that it was in Half Moon Bay is because everybody that worked at the company was a surfer. And Half Moon Bay, California is one of the best surf spots in the world. It's also one of the coldest beaches that you could swim in America. I mean, everyone thinks California is really, really warm, but nah, Northern California is cold, man. And you got to wear a wetsuit when you go in there and surf. And our guest tonight tried to get me. He always like, let me teach you. I'll teach you how to surf. He's an amazing surfer. I was like, nah, bro, I'm from Texas, man. I don't put on, first of all, I'm brown. Second of all, I don't put on wetsuits. Third of all, I hear there's sharks out there and I ain't getting anywhere close to sharks, dude. Yeah. I can do, ostriches, I can do hippopotamuses, I can do, lions and tigers, but, I can't do sharks, Herbie.
No, I'm with you. I couldn't do it either, and I'm really excited. I think we might finally get that story we've been waiting for, the embarrassing Kash Shaikh story.
And we might get it tonight, man, because our guest tonight, Justin Wilkenfeld, and I go way back. My boy Hoost, he was such a pioneer in the early days of content creation, of community building, of flipping the paradigm of what it means to build a brand. He was one of the most instrumental players and leaders that helped GoPro get to where they are, where they went. In about 18 months, we became a $1 billion company. Justin was there from the early days, was a part of the IPO and the exit. But what I'm really excited about is what he's doing now, which honestly has a lot of parallels to what we did in the early days with Besomebody. He's trying to build a brand and a community and a movement that is all about positivity. It's about unity. It's about passion. It's about taking care of the planet. It's called Kindhumans. And I can't wait to talk to him about that.
Yeah, Kash, he's got some really exciting things going on. And I think, like you've said on numerous podcast episodes now, the consumers are just looking for companies that are, what are they standing for? What products? What are these missions that they're behind?
Right. Yeah. We've talked about that a lot in a lot of episodes. And what's really important is the data says it as well. Right? It's not just us talking about it. When you look at the data, according to a survey published by the National Retail Federation and IBM Institute for Business Value, 1/3 of all consumers today will stop buying their preferred products if they lose trust in the brand. And 1/3 of consumers have already stopped purchasing their longtime favorite brands in 2019 because they haven't stood for values that are important to them. 57% of global consumers say that they are willing to change their shopping habits to reduce environmental impact, which is important because that is a big platform for Kindhumans, impact on our environment, sustainability. And 73% of consumers say that product traceability is very important to them. And of those 73%, 71% say they're willing to pay a premium for that. So the data continues to tell us and to educate us that if you stand for something, if you are doing something that is bigger than you and bigger than your product and bigger than your bottom line, consumers will reward you. And I know Justin has had that vision for a long time, man. So I'm pumped, Herbie. I'm pumped. Let me do my normal paper throw.
Just
there you
throw
go.
'em.
I'm pumped. I can't wait.
Well, let's bring him on, Kash. Let's welcome to the show a leader with a bachelor's degree from the University of California, San Diego. After beginning his career in finance, he left in 2007 to join his friends as the 4th ever employee at GoPro. After almost 10 years and a successful IPO, he and his wife Suzy co-founded Kindhumans. From Encinitas, California, please welcome the CEO of Kindhumans, Justin Wilkenfeld! We got him on.
He's on the line.
Yeah.
What's up, Hoost?
Yeah. What's happening, Kash? How you doing?
How you doing, man? So great to hear your voice. So great to be in touch again, man. The last time I saw you was on a sandy coast in Northern California, man.
I know, man. We were talking Be Somebody and, the future, and look at you now. It's exciting, man. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Well, thanks, brother, man. I can't wait to get into your story and share with everybody that listens to the show your background, your journey, which is so inspiring, and then of course everything that you're doing with Kindhumans. But before we get into that, man, Herbie, this is becoming a trend. Before we get into anything, I just like to talk to people about how much I pissed them off back in the day because I didn't realize it. Because I came in from Procter & Gamble, I was on the Tide brand, and when you work on detergent, at Procter & Gamble, it's like the top of the world, man. It's like you've made it. You've made it. So I came from the Tide brand and I went over to GoPro. And I thought I was like the man. And I walked in and I was supposed to be on social and communications, help with marketing. Literally, the first day of my job, I moved my whole life from Cincinnati to San Francisco, got an apartment downtown. We were up in Half Moon Bay, a little two-story white cottage. It was a transformed Best Western. And I walked in and I had interviews with all the people that were supposed to report to me, including two people that were the sisters of our CEO, Nick Woodman. And then I met with Justin, and every single person told me some version of, I don't know why the hell you are here, and I don't want you here. And Justin said it the most eloquently and the most, pleasantly, but he still said it. So Justin, and I know that sentiment carried on for like 6 months. So man, you couldn't stand me, right, at GoPro?
Well, I mean, I would say that I was probably the closest one that could take it. But I think you came in hot. You came in with a nice fat resume, and I think you were all ready to jump on the GoPro train, which was on fire. I mean, you were ready to hop on the rocket ship, which, it's the wildest ride, the wildest times. And for what it's worth, Kash, I mean, I think we taught each other something during that period, because I think that, we give you a hard time because you deserved it at the time. I think you needed to be humbled a little bit, if you will.
Yeah.
But for what it's worth, you also came in with knowledge and experience and just a sense of energy and, a willingness to jump on stage and like get up and like preach. And I think that like you've always been a great evangelist. And despite whatever challenges we may have had, like, I mean, yeah, man, you got a hard time. Like you jumped in with the Woodman sisters. Like, come on. Like, I think you kind of didn't have a fighting chance, to be honest.
I was sent to the slaughter, bro.
You were like, you got like some Gucci sneakers on or something, you're coming into GoPro that's like action sports, adventure sports, and like, different crowds. But
hey, Hoost, I remember when I was like talking to Nick and we were finalizing the deal for me to come over there. I was the only person at Procter & Gamble to wear a suit every day. No one even did it at P&G, but I'm like, I'm gonna keep my brand equity. Like I'm gonna be me when I go to GoPro. I'm looking at Jordan in a studio who used to sell me all those suits way back in the day, and I'm gonna wear these, but I'm gonna wear like my sports coats. And I wore like, I was wearing sports coats every day. Everyone's wearing like t-shirts and like, the trucker hats and everything. And I'm coming in my sports coats. It took only about 3.5 months, Hoost, for y'all to like switch me though. Like. You didn't beat it out of me, but you humiliated me, Hoost. You humiliated me.
Well, when I got hired to GoPro, part of the deal was when I was emailing back and forth with Nick, I mean, literally I was wearing slacks and like I went through this whole thing about like tucking in my shirt at TD Ameritrade because I was back office institutional division. If an advisor came through or something, like I'll put on the suit, but like in general, it was like polos and like slacks or whatever. So it wasn't that bad. But when I got hired to GoPro, it was like Nick's like, well, if you're ready to ditch the slacks and shiny shoes for your board shorts and flip flops, let's do this. So I literally had a pile of like dry cleaning that sat in my closet for like 12 months at least before I did something with it. And I literally lived in like board shorts and t-shirts, and I still kind of do. I don't know. I kind of kept that rolling.
It's funny. I remember going to an event and I had like my backwards hat and I had my little like Billabong tee or something, and I had some board shorts on, and everybody was like, all right, Kash, finally, welcome, come, brother, we've been waiting for you.
Yeah, you loosened up, it's great.
but man, you know what, and Herbie, I promise we're going to get into Justin's background because it's really, really amazing, but Justin, I learned so much, man, and I always reference it because, I came from somewhere where I was doing really well and I was looked at as someone that was on a successful path. And when I came to GoPro, I didn't understand culture in a way that was important and essential enough to be successful at a company that was growing and a company that small, because P&G is 100,000 people, and at GoPro,
Right.
I think I was the 100th employee at GoPro. So you guys had already been doing so much, but I didn't even understand. I couldn't even comprehend it, and I made so many mistakes, Hoost, that I had no idea I was making until I started building my own company, and then I would just feel bad all the time. I'm like, oh my God, now I know what Hoost was talking about. I was like, I wish I could say sorry to my boy.
Oh man, but you're good. I mean, the cool thing was that at least for our relationship, like I always felt like we could talk, and I always also like to take things head on. Like I'd rather tell you to your face and talk about it than talk behind your back and like create this sort of insidious like energy. I'd rather like be like, okay, let's put it on the table, talk it out. Let's both learn, because you got a perspective too. Like I try to live that way, and so I feel like that's why we've always stayed pretty cool. Like the whole time. Like you might have like annoyed me with certain like things that you learned from P&G, but at the end of the day, like I knew you were like a good person, and I knew that your heart was in the right place, and that you did want to like help grow the brand. And I think you did some amazing work for GoPro, despite some of those challenges that you faced. And at the end of the day, I think that helped shape you into who you are now. And I think that like, I think it's just been part of your journey. So I think like for what it's worth, I look at it similar to the way we are with our government today. It's like, you need to like go through some really tough times sometimes before you can come out on top.
Right.
At least that's my hope. Is that's where we're headed right now.
Yep.
Really proud of you for what you're doing. So good on you.
Thank you, brother. Well, Hoost, can you share a little bit more about your journey? I know you referenced your times back in finance.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like the finance thing goes, I mean, that was an accident. It was like fresh out of college. I was a history major, social anthropology minor. I entered college thinking political science, quickly learned that politics was a really difficult game to play with a lot of compromise of your integrity. And so I gravitated towards history and social anthropology, the study of people. And, post college, I think my double major, or my second major was, surfing. So hanging with like Nick Woodman, who founded GoPro, and, a bunch of other friends. And we have this core group that's actually stayed together to this day, talking 27 years, and we still try to get together at least every year or two to do a surf trip, or, just try to get the crew together. But anyways, like building bonds like that, ends up being like almost more critical to my future than the schooling, the education.
Yep.
Because I met people and networked and built a family of friends that ended up, it's carried through for decades. So that said, I come out of college thinking about grad school, really not sure what I wanted to do. Started some odd jobs. I worked a hot air balloon job, like on the ground crew. So I was like setting up hot air balloons and like sending people off into the sky. With,
only in California. Only in California.
Right? I mean, I'm driving at like 4 a.m. to launch balloons at like dawn.
What was it up in Napa? Was it up in Napa?
Temecula. So that was when I was still in SoCal. But yeah, I mean, that was a fun job. I did some kayak tours around La Jolla. But eventually, like, my car broke down. I had to get a real job. So I worked at a random call center for a bit, and then I was like pondering grad school in New Mexico, where my parents had moved to. And I wasn't feeling it. Like, I wasn't like inspired to go do 3 years of school inland, like way inland. Lots of sand, but not too many waves out in New Mexico. But anyways, so I was struggling to figure it out, but I had to get a full-time job. And then right around like 2000, 2001, or 2000, I guess, I had some friends that were working in finance, and we were just talking about how you could just kind of get into the business by taking your Series 7 and 63, try to work towards becoming a financial advisor, and there was good money in it, obviously. So thinking market's up, market's down, you still take your percentage. That's not a bad gig.
Right.
So I started down that path, but I quickly learned that I don't really want to gamble my own money all that hard, let alone other people's money. So I kind of gravitated more towards like the service side of the business and relationship management, and eventually kind of progressed through some, different manager positions. And at the end, I was, creating service teams that managed like transitional business. So moving accounts, like books of accounts for a financial advisor from one firm to our firm. And super exciting work.
Yeah, dude, we are enthralled. My hairs on my elbows are raised.
I know. I mean, you can tell where this is going to. Right? But, the best part of that job was the means to the end. So I worked market hours, 5:30 in the morning. I'm a morning guy, so it's like I was up on the phone with New York, like hardcore brokers, advisors, like full New York attitude, 5:30 in the morning. Like, I'm on, let's go, bring it. The best part was I was done with work by like 1 o'clock at 1:30. So I had all afternoon to go do my thing. I could go surf. I could go, ride my bike. Like I could live my lifestyle. So it ended up like year round, midwinter, my friends don't see the light of day. They go to work in the morning, it's kind of dark. They come home, it's dark, but I got my afternoon. So for me, that worked great to support my lifestyle, but the work itself was not something that I was passionate about at all. And so I started to really I got the 7-year itch, let's just say. So I started really hounding Nick in year 7 of working there. And I was like, dude, like I need a career change. Like what could I possibly do? I'm 32, like I got a history degree. Like, what am I going to do to just change my life and my career trajectory? Cause I was like, I can't spend the next 20, 30 years in finance. It's going to kill me. So I started talking to Nick and I was like, bro, I got afternoons. I'll sell stuff for free. Like I'll go to surf shops and bike shops and all that stuff. And at this point, this is probably 2007. Nick was 3 years deep with cameras in market. He was profitable, but still small.
Right.
It was Nick, our boy Neil Dana.
Yeah, Neil, what's up, brother?
With us. Yeah. And then you got Jill, his wife.
Yeah.
And then, I was basically bugging him. We had another friend who was helping with sales in San Diego. So Nick's like, it's not quite right. I'd feel bad.
Was that Vince? Was that Vince?
No, it was this other friend, Paul. So Vince came on a little later, and but this friend of ours, Paul, he's not Paul Crandall, it's another guy, but anyway, so because I was building service teams at TD Ameritrade, it turned out that just one day randomly, as I'm talking to Nick on the phone and trying to figure this thing out and recreate my life, right? It's like, Nick's like, man, I got to deal with this customer service stuff. Like I got to go. And I'm like, well, tell me a little bit more about your customer service issue. And he starts telling me about how he's answering like 40, 50 emails, like a day or something like that. And then trying to do warranty returns, like for broken part or need a new cable, stuff like that. Just like pretty basic customer service. But, I had built like a much more complex system and like, different levels and things like that, managing a whole team of people. So I told Nick, I'm like, I think I can build this for you, from the ground up. I can handle all those calls. I was like, I'm dealing with like 150, 200 emails a day,
right?
Crazy advisors. I'm like, it sounds really pleasant to be able to talk to some people about camera problems,
right?
While they're like about to go on vacation, and like going to do something fun, So so Nick and I talked about it, and he just was like, let's do this. And so in 2007, I basically quit my job at TD Ameritrade. Against, the better judgment of a lot of friends and family. I mean, they thought I was crazy. Like, They're like, seriously, you're going to go leave this nice, comfortable job, security of TD Ameritrade and benefits and all of that to go join your college buddy's camera company that nobody's heard of. And they make these little funky wrist cameras. Like, I don't understand. Like, have you heard of Canon or Nikon? Like, Sony, they're like, you guys don't even have a chance, and it's like, okay, but as far as I see it, Nick's about to pay me a salary. I was taking a pay cut and losing benefits, but hey, it was going to carry my bills, and it was an opportunity for me to jump ship from a path that I didn't feel like was going to fulfill me.
Right.
So it was a critical move for me. And, I feel like it was a pivotal moment, and it's been a seminal moment really that I couldn't have anticipated. But the beauty of it was that it was like taking a chance on doing something else. And that's like one of my biggest takeaways, was having the courage to leave that comfort zone.
Right.
And at 32, taking a risk on something that really, on paper probably didn't have much of a chance,
Right.
But anyways, yeah. So,
it's interesting. I left Procter & Gamble at 32 to come to GoPro. And I felt at that time very similar to you, like this is a risk for me. You guys were already crushing it, but I was in the safety and security of my job at P&G. I just got promoted. They were moving me to Geneva. I was ready to go to Switzerland. I was going to live the expat life. And then literally 2 weeks after meeting Nick, I was in San Francisco. So it happened so fast.
Crazy.
It happened so fast, and but your 20s, you're trying to just figure shit out. You're just trying to have fun, like do different things, explore different things, not really thinking about purpose or passion or anything. You're just doing stuff. When you get into your 30s, I really believe you're like you realize, I think I can do something more. I think life is about something more. What is my purpose? What could be my impact? What could be my legacy? And then that's when you start to ask the smart questions that lead you to the right answers, the tough questions that lead you to the right answers. And now, like I just turned 40 last year. I think in your 40s now, hopefully if you did it right and if you really focus and you were blessed, then you kind of know it. And now you're like full force into your path.
Yeah. I mean, I think, man, if you're willing to take the leap of faith to go for it and also take the it's like taking the chance, but it's like you have to be willing to accept the possibility of failure.
Right.
And really, it's like even thinking about it, is it even failure or is it just an experience that you learn from? As long as you're still standing, like, I don't know. I think it's like, that's the way I try to look at it. It's just continual learning. And you need to fail at things in order to, stand up and be stronger or to do it better next time and so on and so forth. So, for me, as I look at like even what we're doing today with Kindhumans, I mean, it's a risk, but like, I feel like regardless of what happens in the end, if it's a successful business or not, like, I think it's a successful endeavor and that we're making a positive impact on people no matter what. And like, that will never be taken away from what we've done, regardless of what's on the books, right? Even GoPro, like on paper as a publicly traded company, like GoPro has struggled. But if I look at what it's done and what it's doing and the power of the brand still today, I mean, when you buy a product, you're not like looking at the stock price,
right?
Like that it's irrelevant to like the brand experience for a customer unless you're a shareholder. Maybe if you're a shareholder, you're like, this damn
which I am, by the way.
Yeah. Hey, man, they still got a little fighting chance. So let's keep the hope alive. But yeah, man. Believe. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like you got to take the risk and you got to like understand that is part of life. And if you never take a risk, you'll probably live with some sort of regret that you didn't try. It's something that you actually believed in, Yeah,
it's so true, Hoost. So, I mean, my biggest influence and inspiration in my life is my mom. And the thing that she's taught me a lot of things, but the piece of advice that she's given me that has always stuck with me and rang the most true and powerful was that failures fade, but regrets last forever. And she's like, just don't have any regrets. And I went to GoPro because I didn't want to be at Procter & Gamble for 10 more years and be like, man, I wish I was a part of that GoPro experience. I left GoPro because pre-IPO because I was like, I know there's potential to make a lot of money here and be a part of this rocket ship. And I felt a part of it at that time. But I left because I didn't want to say, you know what, this experience, this financial gain, all that was not worth it because I didn't go do what I really felt my calling was or what I really needed to do. So to me, that anthem of not having regrets, has always driven me.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it was an interesting progression for you. Like, just, I'll give you my perspective. Like, I felt like you were coming around. Like, I felt like in terms of like the culture and the brand fit, like, and just to touch back on that piece, like there was a very unique and special culture and energy within GoPro. That's like, I've never experienced it in any other place. And we're trying to replicate it a little bit with what we're building at Kindhumans. And we've got even some of the same people, but, but that said, I mean, that was a tough culture to crack. So like, I give you credit for like your resilience and your ability to kind of deal with like the getting dumped on by a lot of people and getting a hard time. 'Cause not a lot of people can take that, and I think, I mean, maybe it helped you for Shark Tank. It was like some preparation for, for Mark Cuban and company, right?
Yep.
But that said, I mean, dude, I mean, that was huge that you pushed through it. And then I felt like when you were getting up and like doing that big launch campaign, which was like an epic launch that we did, still definitely goes down in history as one of the best launches ever.
Best
like,
ever, bro.
Sure.
Hero 3, best ever.
Yeah. So, no, we crushed it. And then, man, you led that effort and you came up with a big vision and we executed it well and it was a huge hit. So, so despite all those challenges that you felt, like, I think that like set the table for you to actually find yourself in some way too, because it forced you to some uncomfortable places and to think about yourself probably and reflect on yourself in ways that you hadn't had to do before. And I think that helped you actually arrive at like what you'd been doing all along, which was be somebody.
Right.
You were doing it. It's just, you were like, I got to pay the bills. I got to like work this job. And like, this is a successful career for me to be at Procter & Gamble, to be at GoPro. And like, you're playing the game, right? And you were super successful, but in the end, like be somebody has always been your passion.
Right.
And that's evolved and, been an amorphous thing. But man, like I could say for sure when you decided to leave, like I felt wholeheartedly you were doing the right thing, like for where you needed to be at that time. So I think you made the smartest choice, and clearly, I mean, you're having the success now. So
right. Well, I appreciate that, man. I mean, there was times when I felt like I was like in quicksand, and not being able to understand the culture, not being able to make that transition. I started talking to other Procter & Gamble folks and big company folks that went to startups, and they were like, well, usually the first move after the big company, you fail and then you figure it out. But I'm like, no, I don't want to leave here without at least connecting with the team, because I do love the people I'm with. Like I'm inspired by these people. I'm learning things from them, and I love what we're doing. Like, I don't understand why they look at me like an alien, like what is it? And I felt, we went through it. Hoost is like, yeah, we did. Yeah. What's up, extraterrestrial? But,
no, come on. I was actually the translator. I was like, no, let me explain why he's okay.
No, Hoost had my back, but I felt good, man, and I appreciate you saying it. That I felt good when I left. That actually it was the best place. Like I was at my personal peak at GoPro in terms of connecting and understanding the people, the culture, and what the ethos of the company and brand was about. And that's what made me feel good leaving. I'm not the type of person to leave like if we hadn't got there yet. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting because, like, when I think about what you went on to do with your grassroots development of Be Somebody and the mural project and how you were connecting with people on the ground and, shaking hands and getting to know, high fives and hugs and, like, getting to know people and building community, like, by going kind of tribe by tribe. And when I think about that, like, it's cool because that's similar to how we developed GoPro. And, when I came in, I was hired for customer service, but being a startup, you got whatever, all four of us, and we had 5 of us. Like we hired Ruben, So,
yeah, Ruben.
But here's the funny thing, and Ruben probably won't like me saying this, but Ruben was hired for sales, and Ruben's like this low key, kind of quiet, but like badass dude. Like he's a ripping surfer, like snowboarder.
Ruben can surf, but he cannot sell anything.
Well, there you go, right? So he was hired for sales, which was like, wait a second, but whatever. He's a buddy, so we'll see what happens. But I think it was like in like 3 or 4 months, he sold like 3 cameras, like not even like a 6-pack. It's like, bro, these kind of sell themselves. Like, what's going on here? It's like, you just couldn't deal with the whole cold calling thing. And so Nick's kind of like, man, I don't want to fire Ruben. He's my boy. And I'm like, well, hey, I've started to deal with all of this like sports marketing stuff and people asking for me to sponsor them with cameras or sponsor their events. So I was basically like moonlighting doing the sponsorship stuff while I'm trying to do customer service all day. I also was driving the truck, loading the truck, driving the truck, and then setting up our trade show booth. We did a lot of trade shows. So I had my hands full. So I was like, well, Nick, I got a way to solve for Ruben. Let's get him in customer service. And he actually studied a little engineering, college and stuff. So it's like, it actually fit. And it's kind of one of those little entrepreneurial stories where like early on, as you're wearing a lot of different hats, like sometimes you've got to like identify when something's not working, but it doesn't necessarily mean you got to just like get rid of it or get rid of the person. Like sometimes it's like reshaping the role and finding like leveraging their strengths and like finding that other pathway. But anyway, so hired Ruben into customer service. He came down to my apartment down in Encinitas. He stayed down here for a month. I kind of bounced in and out doing like trade shows and events. And then he took it over and I focused pretty much for the next like 7 or 8 years just on like community building, grassroots marketing, sports and lifestyle marketing, and really trying to build our athlete roster and, our footprint across a bunch of different categories of like sports and entertainment.
Right.
And so when I think about what you did, I mean, it was so similar. I mean, what my job was to be in these places, right? So like you look at a trade show, for example, it's like this epicenter where a whole industry comes together in one place, like all the key people from your marketers to your event people to your athletes and influencers and to all the brands that are associated with the industry. So it's pretty cool when you like show up at these places and you have this opportunity to market and sell your brand. And I know you did it, and I get up and get the GoPro chant going to like 1,000 people and slinging out hats and shirts and getting people fired up. But that's where we thrive.
Well, dude, Hoost, I just want to jump. I want to jump in and say everything that I did with the community building at Besomebody, I learned from you and the GoPro team, man. Like that, I didn't learn that before. When I was doing,
you didn't learn that at P&G, man.
No, man. I mean, seriously, we did some amazing work at Procter and Gamble, and I love everything I learned there. But when we did community building, I was calling the agency that was calling the other agency that was calling the other vendor that was calling the event person that was calling. We were 6 or 7 levels from the front lines, man. And then when you used to tell me, I remember when I first started going to trade shows with GoPro, my dumbass would come in, and I'd come in at like 9:30 a.m. and be like, oh, the booth looks great, guys. And I just like talk to people. I'd high five some people. I didn't do anything, and I thought I was doing something by being there. Can't even, I'm so embarrassed because I remember once
I was actually like lifting stuff.
And I remember you telling me like, Kash, I don't know if you remember this, Hoost. Well, you yelled at me one time and you're like, I used to drive the Ryder truck to Salt Lake City, and I would drive like 7 hours, and I'd pull out the furniture, the IKEA furniture. I'd build that overnight. I'd have it ready for the morning. I'd sell all day. Disassemble the product, put it back in the truck, and drive back to California in a 48-hour period. And I was like, I couldn't even like process what you were saying, bro, until I was doing it myself with Besomebody. And I'm telling you, brother, I want you to know, when I was doing it, you were the first person I thought of, because I was like, now I get it. It gives me goosebumps still, man, because that's what life's about. I screwed up before.
I think you called me. No, I think you called me.
Yeah, I remember.
I get it. I get it. I get it now. I was like, hallelujah.
I get it now.
Well, hey, anybody that ever tells you that you can't rebuild IKEA furniture, it's a lie, because Man, we made like one piece of IKEA furniture last for like 100 trade shows.
I remember that you guys started like the little table in the corner of these big trade shows. And I remember talking to Nick back in the day, and he was like, man, how he was like thinking in the early days, how do I drive some traffic to our little tiny table in the corner? So you started doing this like GoPro, GoPro, GoPro chant, and then that started driving just foot traffic. And by the time I got there,
what's all this noise over there?
Yeah, what's all this noise over there? Yeah. And by the time I got there, it was like legendary. When you were at, CES or NAB, which is National Association of Broadcasters, like the big media conferences, like the GoPro booth was like the loudest, it was the rowdiest, it was the most energy. The music was loud.
Electric.
Yeah, it was electric. Yeah. The music was loud, it was packed. And when I would watch, and at that time Nick would come for the first GoPro like chant giveaway, and we would give away product, and then he would leave and transition. And I remember the first time I got to do that, man, and you and Nick were there, and like I got to get up on like the box of whatever of cameras and stand up and be like, y'all ready for some GoPro? And be like, GoPro. I mean, it was so awesome, man. I still got that picture, and it was literally thousands of people in front of you in the energy. And I used to tell my team, and I still tell my team, like, I want that GoPro energy. I was like, I want us to get in trouble for our music being too loud. You know what I mean?
Oh, we were such troublemakers, man. I mean, we would like, we would always have like a van, like it was a sportsmobile or a Sprinter van. It was all like wrapped and looked cool, but man, we were slinging cameras out of the back of that thing at trade show. It was like, you were not supposed to do that, but man, we would be like cash in hand, and it was like super fun. Just to like have that like direct to consumer experience at these places. And I remember at NAB one year, there was like an hour-long line to the back of the van to buy cameras, and we ended up getting in trouble for it. Slap on the wrist, whatever. But I remember hearing two different people at different points say like, "What are we in line for?" And they had already been in line for a bit. Like they were like deep, and I'm like, "What? Like, are you serious? Like you've been here at least 15 minutes." It was just the place to be, apparently. They got plenty of TVs and music, so I guess it works.
You can't manufacture cool, honestly. You can't manufacture cool. And the way, I mean, GoPro was just cool, man. GoPro was just cool. The energy, the authenticity, the passion behind it. And I learned passion from you and Nick and the team, and I always felt it. I didn't really know how to articulate it until I was around you guys, and that became kind of the DNA of Be Somebody, man.
For sure. No, I love that. I mean, it's funny because you brought up like the whole like community or like the 7 layers of like agencies when you're in the Procter and Gamble world. Right. And, for us, like, I think, why did companies like Sony or Nikon or, Contour or whatever, like some of the companies that were, our direct competition, like they just didn't spend the time. Like they didn't like have the people, the authentic people too. Like I always, like as I built out my team, I always tried to hire somebody better than me. Like I always tried to hire somebody that was an expert in the field of like sports and entertainment or what have you, that just knew it better. I mean, my background was not in marketing. It was not, I love sports. I paid attention. But I'm observant. I like to study people. I like to work with people. I like to create win-win scenarios. So for me to be a relationship manager and be doing deals with people, like I want us all to be happy at the end of the day. So I think that's partly why I had success. But as a company, I think why we had success was because we spent the time on the ground meeting people, and we didn't just go write big checks. We took a while actually to write those big checks, and we took our time. And we took the time to build. And I think that like a lot of people that came in closer to the IPO couldn't understand it because you don't know what you don't know. So to your point about culture and all of that, like you couldn't have known because you just weren't experienced in that. I wasn't either. I mean, I came from TD Ameritrade. So for me, I got to like experience that organic growth, but like, unlike a lot of my, coworkers at GoPro, like I feel like I had that corporate experience as well.
Right.
And so I actually saw both sides of the equation, and I could see the potential for us, but also trying to thread the needle is like staying like authentic to who we are. And at the end of the day, like I was stoked to sponsor the small guy or a lot of the small guys in different sports, because I actually felt like that made us cooler.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that was like, those guys don't get the love. You know, it's always the big names that get the love. And people are like, oh, we got to get Kelly Slater. We got to get Shaun White. We got to get all the best.
My first weekend at GoPro, we signed Shaun White, and it was like literally split the company. The company was split on should we do it or not? Are we selling out? Why are we signing this big name athlete? All that stuff. Remember?
I mean, ironically, I dated his sister way back when, and it's like it's funny because like
my man,
she made sure to tell him before we had our meeting, and it was like years later, but it was funny because like he comes in and gives me a hug, and man, he's a good guy. But you know what made a difference for GoPro in the end, and still does, it's authenticity.
Right.
And it's like a genuine connection and a genuine relationship with these different communities. And we went vertical by vertical, crawl, walk, run strategy, right? And we built the brand by getting to know people. And that loyalty that you gain from those relationships can transcend like the brand. You know, even to this day, I mean, as we're getting into Kindhumans, I mean, I'll tell you what, like the number of people from the community that we, you know, that came together for GoPro, I mean, a lot of that community is coming together to support us already. And, you know, just because they loved the experience with GoPro and they like what we're doing now and, you know, want to learn more as we're growing and evolving this thing. But, you know, the community is the ultimate, like, goal for us. I mean, let's wrap our arms and embrace the community of Kindhumans. You know, that's really one of our core things. And we're going to try to follow a lot of the same blueprint that we built GoPro on, because it was super successful. And, you know, we had a great product and we had great timing. You know, it was like a perfect storm.
I remember I talked to Nick when I came over, and I'm like, how are we going to compete with Sony and Canon and Nikon? Like, I asked him that question before I left Procter & Gamble, and he said, you know, number one, these companies don't know how to build community like we do. He said, our brand was built surf shop to surf shop, skate shop to skate shop, person to person, you know, human to human. And he said, even if they knew how to do it, they don't want to. They wouldn't want to put in the work to do it. They would not put in the work to do it. And he said, that is our superpower. That is our secret sauce. The fact that we built it like shop to shop, person to person. I never forgot that. And honestly, Hoost, it was you on the ground doing a lot of that. And I really think that's so powerful. And it speaks to what you and the team built, what you're building with Kindhumans and all of that. So I really respect that.
Yeah, I mean,
I
appreciate that.
Well, I want to hit a few things, who's on GoPro, and then I want to get into Kindhumans. So first thing, working with family and friends, because when I went to GoPro, like you said, I mean, Nick's sisters, college roommates, like best friend. I always tell my team.
You had your little P&G pod.
I had my little I had Suzanne. Hey, pour a little liquor out for Suzanne Watson. Suzanne, we love you. But I always tell my team, I want to build this company with people I love and care about, and I want to build it with friends. I want to build it with, you know, extension of family. My brother's in the company. I love that. It can be difficult at times, but actually I saw a case study that worked, and it's called GoPro, and that became billion-dollar-plus company, the most successful American IPO in 2014. You know, amazing company. So what is your thoughts about building a company, startups, pros and cons with family and friends?
Well, I'm doing it again. I mean, my wife is the co-founder and actually co-CEO now of Kindhumans, but you know, I think working with friends and family honestly was part of the special sauce for GoPro. I mean, clearly, like you said, it's a great case study. And I had heard, you know, definitely some people ahead of me joining were like, oh, you're going to work with Nick? Like, really? Like, you're going to work with friends? And then as he added like his sisters and cousin, like there's plenty of people that thought we were making a terrible mistake.
Yeah,
But
don't
I
mix
actually
family
think
with
it's the
business. Don't
opposite.
mix friends with business, right?
Yeah, you always hear that. But I mean, who are you going to trust? I'll just put that out
Exactly.
there. I mean, at the end of the day, like, who are you going to trust? I think that you can support each other. Like, if you can't trust your family and like good core friends, like, I don't know, like you're going to trust some random stranger you just met. Like,
Are you
don't-
going to trust
that doesn't add up to
Herbie?
me.
Are you going to trust Herbie?
No, I don't think so.
Herbie, do you trust yourself?
I do, but I don't think Kash trusts me, Justin.
Well, you're here, so clearly, yeah, that's not true.
lukewarm.
No, but seriously, I mean, I think that level of support was magic, and that, you know, you can lean in on people differently. It's like natural. It just happens. Whereas when you're in a company, it's like hit and miss. Like, you're going to have those great friends and those great relationships that you're going to build. But there was like definitely into like I'd say several hundred people. And even like Kash, when you came on board and when Suzanne came on board, like these were all networked people.
Right.
They were like connected to somebody that we knew for the most part. You know, I'd
Right.
say like that approach lasted for quite some time. It can go sideways on you though. I'll say that. I mean,
Right.
I had some tough conversations with friends. I had to fire or lay off friends. I mean, those ones make you cry a little bit, especially
Right.
because we were such a tight knit group at GoPro. So there's challenges. Again, I think being direct and open with people and, you know, having open communication is critical. And also, you know, anytime I enter that situation now, I kind of make it a point to address it on the front end that we might come to that day that we've got to go our separate ways. You know, that like nothing's guaranteed to work out just because we're friends or family. And we have to be able to separate those two things and compartmentalize those two things in business because, you know, but that said, like, I'll make more allowances and I'll probably be more flexible and compassionate or empathetic to my employees because they are my friends and family than if they weren't.
Right. Well, it's funny.
Yeah.
I always tell, because I've got people that I consider friends and family at this company. Really, everybody is really friends and family. Very, you know, my closest friends and confidants. And I always say, you know, the trust is there, the loyalty is there. Like, we're in this together. But I'm also gonna push you harder, and I'm gonna expect more out of you. Because you know what we go through, you know the story, you know the sacrifice, struggle, and suffering, and then also like when you come in as a friend and our family, it's like always having like the coach's son on the basketball team when you grew up, who got playing time. You've been on the teams before where the dude got playing time because his dad was the coach and he wasn't very good, and you always resented that fact. Or he was actually the best player because his dad was the coach and coached him all the time and like pushed him and you know, it was that one. And I always say, I want you to be the latter. I'm going to push you. I'm going to invest more in time with you, but I want you to be the best. I want you to be at the top of the crop, because then that earns you credibility and it protects our culture. So people aren't like, well, Kash is just giving this person favors because he's, you know, their friends or their family or whatever.
Right. You have to over-index in a way, I think, to overcome that potential pitfall. Yeah. Because even whether it's true or not, right? Like, there's a perception.
Right.
That comes with it, or stigma even that comes with it. So I think that's interesting. I mean, I think we've been lucky. Like, GoPro was super fortunate to make it as far as it did, hiring so many friends and family. And you had these like cool, like little pods from UCLA Film School or USC ski team. And we started to hire those people.
Shout out to Abe.
So
Shout out to Abe.
So cool. Yeah,
Chris Farrell, what's up, brother?
You. But yeah, man, I mean, it's a risk, but it clearly worked at GoPro so far. It's working here. I mean, when I met Suzy, she cold called GoPro to see if we wanted to sponsor Supercross. And that developed into one of the
Suzy's
best
your
deals
wife,
I've
by the
ever
way.
made. Actually, the best deal I've ever made. Yeah, sorry. For context, Suzy Wilkenfeld is my wife and co-founder of Kindhumans, but and the wonderful mother of our 2 children.
Yeah, Suzy's amazing.
No, she's awesome, and I mean, we got to know each other working together for the better part of the year. A lot of trials and tribulations. I mean, the Supercross deal was actually like our first major sports sponsorships. It was like a 6-figure deal. TV package and stuff like that. But we had to navigate the world of like content rights and management with like a full network, like Fox was involved. And the way their contracts were written, they hadn't contemplated a little camera.
Right.
So like they really didn't know what to do with it. And so, fortunately, Suzy and I ended up being kind of this like little team, and I'm like trying to manage Nick's expectations on my end and all the asks that we wanted.
And you started pimping.
It's natural, man. No, I mean, I'll tell you what, though, I would never go there. It's part of I don't know, it's like a value thing for me where like I try not to cross that line.
Right.
That's like, so I won't. Yeah, that's pretty much like how I'll do business, or have done. I mean, it's happened. Don't get me wrong. Like there's been some times in my career, but at the end of the day with Suzy, it was like, I wasn't really thinking that. She's awesome to work with though. And just the battles that she had to go through and that I had to go through to arrive at like the final deal where we got content and we could go shoot on site and, sending Jordan Miller and the crew out on the, Brad Schmidt out on the Supercross track.
Boys.
That they had no clue about.
Right.
It's like surfers and like, hippies going to film Supercross. But it was awesome. I mean, it was,
Supercross, basically dirt bikes, dirt bike racing.
Dirt bike.
Yeah. So for those y'all don't know.
It's like full motocross. So anyways, Suzy and I had to work really hard together to make that thing work. And at the end of it all, we had a lot to celebrate in terms of just like a successful season. And, I won't lie, but she made the first move. So, we have to go on a little elevator and she ends up like giving me a kiss. I was like, okay, so, I didn't cross the line.
Oh my God. Hey, welcome to Late Night on the Be Somebody podcast.
We have to check a different box on Apple Podcasts for this one.
NC-17 on this one, Herbie.
Yeah.
Well, for what it's worth, just to close that story, I mean, I ended up, about 2 years later, proposing to her on an elevator.
Awesome.
Just to bring it full circle. But no, man, I mean, but we know now, like, as we're working on Kindhumans the last like couple years, we know we could do it. We've done it. We've worked together. So we have all the confidence in the world that we can do it again. And it has its moments of stress and challenges, but same time, like our love transcends it. So it's all good.
Well, I'm going to call you a double click on that later for more on the insights on that. But I just want to talk to you, Justin, about how the culture at GoPro evolved in good ways and also in bad ways. Pros and cons when the company went public. Because when I left, it was a few months before. The culture was still super strong. It was all about the community. It was about passion. It was about love. It was about belief. And then right as I left, you all started to bring on outside folks that were more financial, experts in things, business leaders, but not really understanding the ethos and core and DNA of the brand. And I would love to hear your learnings from that transition, from growth to IPO to where the culture ended up today.
Sure. Yeah, that's a juicy one.
Thank you for listening to part 1 of the Justin Wilkenfeld episode. Be sure to listen to part 2 to hear the end of the inspiring conversation with Kash and Justin. And thank you for listening to the Be Somebody Podcast. Be sure to check out all of our audio and video episodes on besomebody.com or listen and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get yours. We out.
You.